On the final day in which MLB teams could add players to the roster and still keep them eligible for the postseason, the Philadelphia Phillies got to work. Walker Buehler is now officially a member of the organization and set to play a part in this year's postseason run. After being released by the Boston Red Sox there, he was out on waivers and available, and Dave Dombrowski jumped into action to bring him to this Phillies team. He spoke to the media, Dombrowski did, to talk a little bit about the expectations and game plan from here. I want to highlight exactly why I think this is a great dart throw by this Phillies team and the type of role that Buehler could bring from a postseason perspective. So to get right into it here, that we did get this announcement coming from the Phillies. A little bit weird how the news did broke, because it kind of, just kind of snuck out in bit by bit. But bottom line was that the Phillies announced that they have signed free agent right-handed pitcher Walker Buehler to a minor league contract and assigned him to AAA Lehigh Valley. Now, I think we were all anticipating or excited about this. I know Luke Arcani put up a video. It was one of those more head-scratching moves when Walker Buehler became available. Now, the reason for that, he's been objectively bad this year. To highlight the numbers for Walker Buehler on the season, that he's pitched in 23 games for the Boston Red Sox there, 112.1 innings pitched, have given up 22 home runs, just struck out 84 while allowing 120 hits. That comes out to 9.6 hits per 9 inning, a 5.45 ERA, a 1.558 whip there. He's still just 31 years old, which, to be perfectly honest, was younger than I would have guessed for Walker Buehler. This did feel like a situation to me, and I do kind of think it's more likely than not that Walker Buehler may be cooked here, that it may be the end of the success story of his MLB career. But there was a point where this guy was a straight up nasty pitcher, and for that fact in itself, based on the context of this Phillies team, this is the right process to take a chance on this dude. In a similar light to why I viewed the David Robertson signing as such an ideal piece here, no, I wasn't over the moon of this guy's absolutely the solution, but it cost you nothing to find out one way or another. If you want to compare that to like the Johan Duran trade, obviously there were higher expectations for Duran. There was a clearer sample size and belief in who this guy is as a pitcher and the impact that he can make. But you got to pay to bring in that caliber of talent. Walker Buehler is a caliber of talent worth taking a chance on when the cost is quite literally nothing. Just the contract here. You don't have to give up prospects. You don't have to sacrifice roster space. It is not this puzzle to fit him as a part of it. You just bring Walker Buehler into the organization and allow him to be Walker Buehler. We'll see how that all fits in. Now, Dave Dombrowski spoke a little bit deeper on this overall for why they decided to go this direction. There are a couple quotes I want to highlight here. Number one, he said, quote, "You don't have to worry about any anxiety of him pitching in a postseason game." Dave Dombrowski on Walker Buehler, who will make his start with Lehigh Valley on 9/6 and then his Phillies debut on 9/12. Dombrowski said they saw some things with Buehler that they believe they can help fix. So obviously he's talking about some sort of mechanical issue or change that he believes could lead to more effectiveness from him as a pitcher. And to highlight the full what we've seen from Walker Buehler throughout his career, as I mentioned, he's kind of done it all. That he pitched in the Dodgers, really had his best years there, has not lived up to expectation with the Boston Celtics, but this is the same dude that's recorded the final out of a World Series game, that has been effective in a bullpen setting, that has finished in the running for Cy Young Awards, that through the duration of his career, a 3.56 ERA, has produced as low as 2.47 over the length of a season here, and the stuff is pretty nasty. This is not a situation where Taijuan Walker is sort of the swing scale guy that we'll use as a Phillies comparison here. Walker Buehler is much more than Taijuan Walker in just about every facet of a pitcher. But when we threw Taijuan out to the bullpen, it was just kind of like, we got to use him somehow, let's hope. Buehler has some stuff that actually plays, has some movement, more of like a feel. And I do think that there's a chance that this does overall work here. And the plan in the short term here, for starters, I did want to pull up what I think is the most important part of this, which is that the Phillies will be going to a 6-man rotation on September 12th after the Mets series, barring any rainouts. That'll be Walker Buehler's first start for the Phillies. Garrett Stubbs and Tim Meiser will be the two call-ups for the roster expansions tomorrow. So the two other names that are now a part of this Phillies roster, we'll be doing a separate video to talk a little bit deeper about Garrett Stubbs. I do think there is more than him just bumping, being the Chiefs vibes officer and playing music in the locker room here. I think this is a chance where Stubbs could make a bit more of an impact than people are acknowledging. There were some interesting quotes floating out on this. But to keep this about Buehler here, I do think going to the 6-man rotation is a great decision by this Phillies team. This is something that I've been pushing heavily on this channel for quite some time, and something that I believe is a fundamental pathway to this team being at their best in the postseason here, saving some wear and tear on the arms. Based on the context of how the divisional race is shaping up, the New York Mets are dropping off the mat once again. That we saw them come in and sweep this Phillies team, or I guess the Phillies went to them and get swept there. And ultimately, it's like it does not matter from a standings perspective because they just keep losing to disastrous ways. Shout out to the Miami Marlins here. But nonetheless, with that kind of in mind, that the Phillies have a comfortable lead in the NL East, you know the pathway to the finish line is here. Saving wear and tear on the arms that each are now individually more valuable because of the injury to Zack Wheeler is incredibly important here. You need Christopher Sanchez to be the game on starter. You need Ranger Suarez to be at his best. Jesus Luzardo, you're no longer a fringe guy. You're stepping up and need to pitch in a postseason setting there. If you can space out the starts in the short term to save the amount of wear and tear and make sure they're at their best, that is 100% a win there. And let's also not forget that for Walker Buehler directly, he's got to earn his keep a little bit. He's got to prove that he can do this on this Phillies team. He's got to cement a role for himself, whether that is as a starter in the bullpen. If he pitches well for the handful of starts that he will make, he'll be in consideration for maybe this is a guy who could be the Game 3 or Game 4 starter or whatever the case may be. And he also can shift to the postseason in a pretty effective way. And I do want to highlight his postseason stats specifically there, that in Walker Buehler's career, just from in the postseason, he's pitched in 19 games, 94.2 innings pitched, allowed just 73 hits, 32 earned runs, 114 strikeouts there with 1 save recorded and a 3.04 ERA. He is seasoned. He's been there before, and he's got the talent level. It's just how much he has left in the tank. And I do think, once again, even if this is completely disastrous, the process of going about this decision-making process should be praised here. That this is a no-risk, high-reward type of move, and something that I think they may very well end up benefiting from. And I will note, quick Walker Buehler story. Buddy of mine, shout out to my guy Nick Anderson, big-time hunter. He went on this big hunting trip with a group of guys out in Central PA here. They're a bunch of guys that he didn't know, like friends of friends type of deal. So they're sitting around just talking. He ends up talking baseball with this dude. And my friend Nick is talking about what a great high school baseball player he is. It turns out the dude was Walker Buehler that was just sitting out there in the middle of the woods that was boys with his boy there. And Walker Buehler not doing like the big dog, like I'm an MLB player, didn't even really mention it until it like got into conversation, which I thought was pretty cool there. So he said he was a really good dude, really down to earth. I would root for Walker Buehler and do think that he can make an impact on this Phillies team. And once again, love the shot being taken by Dave Dombrowski here. And also when talking about the 6-man rotation as a whole, as I do think that is a larger part of the biggest takeaway here. When you run down the list, each of these guys have sort of earned the opportunity here. That we know the case with Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Ranger Suarez here. Aaron Nola needs to continue to work through and figure out what his issues are. Can he be ready for a postseason perspective? And he's going to have to be one way or another. Then it gets to Taijuan Walker. I know it's been a maddening season for Taijuan Walker, or maddening Phillies tenure for Taijuan Walker, but the fact of the matter is this dude has earned his keep this year. That he has proven and shown that he can be an MLB quality pitcher in a way that I did not think was possible for this. Now, he's on the mound today. He could make me look like an idiot for saying this, but I do think that the version of Taijuan Walker that we've seen this season has been legitimately good for this Phillies team, giving them a chance to win on the days that he starts. That's all you can ask for there, and I do think that for the remainder of the regular season, you absolutely keep rolling with that. So the space of the arms out, I do think is a strength. And the other key part to note, if Walker Buehler slots into a bullpen role, which I think is very well within the realm of possibility, there is a couple question marks that keep shaping up. The Orion Kirkring experience, not as rock solid as I think each of us hope would be the case there. A pretty discouraging performance last night. Couldn't find the strikes on whatever. Walked 2, had to get yanked from the game. Shout out to Tanner Banks being thrown on fireman cleanup duty here. And Rob Thomson about Kirkring saying, quote, he's just misfiring. 2 walks. He's got to trust his stuff and attack the zone. I think that's fair, but I'm not seeing it right there. I do think in the larger scale of the conversation, people are harder on Orion Kirkring than he necessarily deserves. But last night was a frustrating one, and I do think that maybe that is a storyline worth monitoring for the next couple weeks. But nonetheless, we will celebrate the Walker Buehler signing for today for the time being here. There is a real chance where this guy becomes a pretty key part of the playoff run. He's got to earn that opportunity, prove that he has some left in the tank, but across the board, this should be praised for the Phillies organization for the process of going about this signing. No risk, high reward. Now let's see what you got, Walker Buehler, here in Philadelphia. Welcome to Philly. Let's get to work. I appreciate you guys for tuning into this video as always. Let's see what happens for the remainder of this Philly season here. We are in the home stretch, playoffs right in the horizon, and got some big plans. So make sure you guys are tapped into us here on Phillies Digest. If you have not already, make sure to smash that subscribe button, drop a like on this video here. We'll be back talking to you next time. Peace.